What's going on? What's going on, my good people? Welcome to another episode of Let the Film Speak. I am one of your hosts, Chop. Here with my main man, Willie Jack. Willie Jack, how you feeling today, bro?
Man, feeling good, feeling great, man. Talking ball, boy, that's all I came to do.
That's all you can do. You talking
All I
about
came
today?
to
That's
do.
what you doing, dog.
Yeah, man.
All right, man. Well, I'm happy I got you here today, man, because we definitely gonna talk some balls today. Of course, as y'all seen, before y'all tap into this episode, we touching on these receivers today, man. We touched on the cornerbacks last week. This week, we jumping into the receivers as far as the top, top ones going into this NFL draft this year in April. And of course, we're gonna rank them 5 through 1. Each one of us gonna give us a 5 through 1. Let you know who we feel like are the top receivers coming into this year's draft, of course. But before we jump into any of that, we got to go through the house rules, really, Jack. And of course, it's the first, same as always, man. It's like, share, and subscribe. Become the newest member of the Film Fam. Let us know exactly what's going on, man. Go ahead and like this, that share, and that subscribe. Go through all those 3 phases, but also hit that notification bell, man. Because when we go live, you got to know when it's happening. Whenever we get this started, whenever me and Willie Jack got something popping off at the crib, you got to know what's going on. So that's what you need to do, and I guarantee you, me and Willie Jack will not let you down. All right, man. We're gonna start the top of this show off, man, the way we always do, and we're gonna start it off with some news, man. We got some news. We had a few things happen, and hey, I ain't gonna lie, I don't know about you, Willie Jack, but thank God, man. We ain't have as much news as we had last week. Last week we had a boatload. I thought the first week was bad, but then the second week I was like, "Whoo,
It was exciting, but it was a lot.
First couple of days of free agency, man, wasn't no joke. You know what I mean? But this one, I'm not gonna say it's light. We got a little bit of news today, man, but we're gonna go ahead and jump into it. First news, man. Former Chiefs offensive tackle, man, Orlando Brown signs a 4-year, $64 million deal with the Cincinnati Bengals, man. That includes 31 million guaranteed. He's a well-established offensive tackle, man, who has played actually both tackle positions throughout his time in the NFL. He played a little bit of left tackle and right tackle. And he's also been one of the top tackles, in the last 4 years. I know Pro Bowls don't mean a lot, all the time, but he's been a guy that's been amongst those top guys, like I said, for the last 4 years. And the thing about it, he's only 26, Willie Jack. Only 26.
Yeah.
What you think about this move, man?
Man, I'm not this one didn't really make a lot of sense, man. The math wasn't mathing. I was talking to we had a lot of Chiefs fans in the group, man. Shout out to my dog Nick Hopkins, shout out to my dog Zoe Spiller, shout out to my dog B Will. Y'all know what's going on, man. Chiefs Kingdom in there. But yeah, I'm talking to them because there was a long drawn out contract dispute between Orlando Brown and Brad Veach of the Chiefs, where they were trying to sign him all last season. He didn't want to sign. He was the word around his camp was that he wanted to break the bank and be the highest paid left tackle in history. That style of contract.
Right.
And so I think the last contract that came from the Chiefs was going to average around $23 million a year. He turns that down, I guess, thinking he's going to hit it big in free agency, and then he ends up signing this deal with the Bengals, for $16 million. And so, somewhere along the lines there, somebody messed up. Somebody messed up big time. You know what I'm saying?
Sound like the money was getting messed up there, Willie Jack.
somebody owe that boy an explanation with his representation team or something. But I guess the plus side of this one, the contract is extremely front loaded. So he's going to clear, I think, 31 million in this first year as a signing bonus, and that's like a league record that much right up front at signing, or I guess for a tackle. And so, but yeah, just an interesting turn of events, man. Here's a guy as well. If we'll remember, was at came out of Oklahoma, was a left tackle, had probably one of the worst combines in recent memory and recent history. Looked terrible, performed worse. It was pretty bad. He gets drafted by the Ravens, plays right tackle. Their stud left tackle goes down. He goes to the left and has a great season. Shows he can play left tackle, and then forces Baltimore hand. Ronnie Stanley, that's who it was. Ronnie Stanley went down. And so forces Baltimore's hand as far as now I need to stay at left tackle or I want to be traded. They acquiesce, send him to Kansas City where, like I said, he's been the stalwart there for the last 3-4 seasons. The reviews have been a little up and down. He's definitely been good, but he hasn't necessarily been the great that he was advertising himself to be. And I think the contract reflects that as well. He advertised himself that he was great. He advertised himself like a guy like we're going to talk about here a little later, Larry Tunsil. Well, he's not quite Larry Tunsil. He's still a very good, very dependable tackle, good on both sides, left and right. And so 16 mil a year, especially when you see the guy who replaced him in Jawan Taylor cleared 20. And I would say the Orlando Browns been the more capable and more dependable
For
tackle
sure.
to this point in their careers. But yeah, you leave home, you turn down 23 at the crib, you leave, they bring somebody in and give him 20, then you leave and take 16. So got to consider that an L. As much as $64 million over 4 years could be an L, as much as that could be an L, we got to consider that an L.
Yeah. Especially leaving a Super Bowl a winning team. You know what I mean?
That too, that
Not only a team that supposedly was willing to pay you a little bit more than that, but also a
quite a bit
team.
more.
Yeah, quite a bit more. But also a team, like I said, that's gonna, as long as Pat Mahomes is pulling the trigger back there, y'all got a chance. You know what I'm saying? Not to say that he don't have a chance over there in Cincinnati, because they got another guy over there in Cincinnati that's nice.
Yeah.
But I mean, you just won one though. You just came off of it, fresh off of it,
Yeah,
and
taste the
usually,
champagne.
yeah, usually when guys leave a team that's just won a ring, it's like, okay, I done got my ring, I'm going to get the bag, and that wasn't necessarily the case here.
You could have got that ring and stayed and got your bag. You know what I'm saying? So like I said, man, it was just the numbers. The numbers got mixed around, man. And somebody he definitely overplayed his hand. Obviously, like I said, he turned down 23 and you go sign for 16. Now I don't know about the structure, what he felt. I mean, the structure on the 23 a year, maybe he didn't like that, or the guarantees always coming to play, that sort of thing. But still, I don't know how the guarantee, whatever played into effect. I don't know if it was worth $7 million. I don't know if there was 7 million reasons to walk away from that Chiefs deal, even if you didn't like it, especially when you go hit the market and get 16. But to your point though, like you said, man, if you got to fall somewhere, he fell with one-on-ones too, man. Joe Beasley, the real deal, man. So he did fall into he's still playing with a high caliber guy, but definitely not necessarily, like I said, man. That's the Kobe Shaq Lakers you just left, boy. You just left the Kobe Shaq Lakers for Mike Bibby and Chris Webber's Kings. Like, yeah, they competitive. They ain't won that. You know what I'm saying? Like, they still got to beat the Lakers before they can even go win a ring. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of what he did. But I ain't gonna lie, I ain't mad at nobody to go get 30 million.
I like what you did there. I like what you did there, because the Kings they did used to be real competitive.
They would.
They used to get to the playoffs, and they used to be a team that'll give you a run for their money, but they never could get over that hump, man.
Hey, they'd take the Lakers 7. You know what I'm saying? They'd take the Lakers 7 or a real competitive 6. You know what I'm saying? Like they just couldn't get over the hump.
They couldn't get over the hump, man.
Hey, shout out to the film early in the building, man. Our dog Isaiah, man, he ready to get to these receivers. Yeah, we coming, big dog. Go ahead with the next little news.
For sure, man. The next thing we got on the block, man, we got Brandon Cooks, man. Brandon Cooks gets traded to the Cowboys, man. He gets traded to the Cowboys. Since my dog brought up the wide receivers, I figured we touch on the wide receiver move here. The Texans agree in this deal to pay $6 million of his total $18 million salary. $8 million of the other 12 that was left will be a signing bonus, and so this year's contract will be worth $4 million. But his contract is through to 2024, which makes his base salary for the next season $8 million. Okay. And then the Texans receive in this deal a 2023 fifth round pick and a 2024 sixth round pick. Willie Jack, what you feel about this deal, man?
Man, I like the move, man. Brandon Cooks is one of those guys where he's criminally underrated, but he's not a top tier guy. So I don't want to say underrated as far as he's a guy that should be in conversations with Stephon Diggs and, we know those names, man, the guys that sit at the top of that mountain. I'm not saying underrated to that aspect, but just still a very consistent, very low-key under the radar 1,000-yard receiver. You know what I mean? Like every team he's played for gets 1,000 yards out of him, and every team he plays for trades him. So he's played for 5 or 6 teams, but he's never been a free agent. He's been traded. Every time he's left, it's been via trade. So he's never really just got to hit the market and then just find a home. But like I said, though, wherever he goes, though, man, he gives you 1,000 yards and he keeps his name out the news. So I ain't gonna never be mad at a dude that get down like that. And then as far as the money aspect goes, man, that was an excellent deal that Dallas worked out. There was slight grumblings that he was ready to get out of there and maybe go play for a contender because the Texans were in an obvious not ready to compete. And so there was grumblings that he was maybe wanting to get out of there via trade, but then, like I said, it didn't happen last year like he wanted, but it does happen this year, and he goes to the Cowboys. So excellent fit for them as well. Michael Gallup as a number 2 failed spectacularly, and then, like I said, they lose Noah Brown as well, another guy who He's a guy. And so now this is the first opportunity they have to have a legitimate guy that's going to line up outside a la Amari Cooper. And then see, now he's not the receiver Amari Cooper is, but he can at least put those shoes on. Michael Gallup couldn't even fill those shoes. You know what I'm saying? Like he just wasn't a threat outside. And so CD, who's operating as a slot, an elite slot, a very elite slot, but he needs somebody to kind of. You got to keep one of those safeties over the top. You got to give him room to work the middle of the field. And so Brandon Cooks can definitely do that. And also, he's a guy, man, like my dog Chop say, maybe not as far as top tier premier, but he's a very savvy route runner as well. Very, very decent route runner. And so, like I say, he can keep you honest, man. He can, my dog, man beater. Yeah, he can get out there and be a man beater for you. You know what I mean? If it's 3rd and 8, he can go out there and break somebody off and get it. You know what I mean? And that's what they've been missing.
For sure. And here's the other thing too. I heard you mention Michael Gallup, and that was what I was going to talk about that a little bit too, in terms of we know Michael Gallup didn't perform this past year, but I've noticed a trend in the NFL when it comes to like those severe knee injuries, those leg injuries. Mm-hmm. It's not the next year; it's the year after is the year that we really see them, almost get back to form where they want.
No, that's fair.
Yeah, it usually takes a while, but I like this because let's say Michael Gallup does take another step forward. Now you still bring in Brandon Cooks, who's already he's rolling. You're gonna get what you're gonna get from Brandon Cooks, kind of like you.
He's gonna get 1,000 yards.
But then you get Michael Gallup, who the whole reason we saw those flashes was because he was that third guy behind Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb. We saw him really operate and work well in this offense as a 3 guy. So now he's kind of moving back to that role. So maybe we see more of that Michael Gallup that showed those flashes and is able to get out there and shine because he has 2 other guys that can really take some of the attention away from him now. So it's not just him as that for sure, bona fide number 2. And even with this being said, I'm not all the way sold that he couldn't be a solid number 2. Because like I said, with those injuries are tricky. Sometimes, like I said, it's not the following year, but it's the year after where they can kind of get back to where they once was and really get going and get some momentum going.
No, and honestly, and I'm glad you said that as well because I like Michael Gallup, and I was happy when the Cowboys re-signed him because he got injured at the end of the season.
Yeah. I remind you, you was calling out 3 1,000-yard receivers.
It was looking like it. I'm glad you said that because it was looking like it. I said 3. I said he was gonna get 3 1,000. I said that.
Hey man, you was like, hey man, this Dallas offense, man, they gonna this and this and that. I was like,
I might did, but I ain't gonna lie. Like I was a fan of Michael Gallup's game. Really, he's a very good up the field receiver. He's not like he's a deep third receiver. Like he's not like a blaze, like he's gonna run by you, but he's definitely got good long speed. And honestly, I think he's got good body control at the catch point. Like I think he attacks the ball, he'll go get it. And so I like what he brings, but just like you said, that role is more suitable to be the third guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's more suited to that role where he's the number 3 and he could just excel in that lane as opposed to maybe when they needed like a down in, down out. They needed a down in, down out X. Like they needed the guy. You're here, you're lined up, you've got a guy in your chest, and we need you to beat this guy to get a play. Because CD's got 3 guys in the middle of the field he's working around. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what he couldn't give him. But not like I said, I'm not out on him. I think he could definitely, and just like you said with the injury as well, he could definitely come back and still maybe carry on the trajectory of what I was thinking maybe 2 years ago. Another real quick fun fact. At the time when he was getting drafted, he was in the same draft as Cortland Sutton. Cortland Sutton was here in Dallas. He went to SMU. And so there was links there because they needed a receiver that they were going to groom because that's when somebody was leaving anyway. And so they could have had Cortland Sutton, and then they went with Michael Gallup out of, you know what I'm saying? He kind of came out of left field. But now, like I said, Cortland Sutton with the trade rumors before this Brandon Cooks ordeal went down, there was talks about Jerry Jeudy or Cortland Sutton maybe getting looked at by Dallas because they were desperate to get somebody else in to bring somebody in to be a real 2. But
for sure. All right, cool. On to the next thing, Willie Jack. And speaking of Texans, man, we're gonna go ahead and stay in Houston, man. And let's talk about the guy that you mentioned, man, that did get that bread, man, did get that money, man. Laramie Tunsil gets his contract reconstructed restructured and I said reconstruction. Boy, that boy was putting some words together, boy. But he gets his contract restructured with the Texans, man. He lands a 3 year, $75 million deal that includes 50 million guaranteed. The boy getting the bread, man. The boy getting the bread. And on top of that, the boy. So here's the other thing, and I hate to keep bringing up Lamar Jackson and all this, man, and doing that, but the boy representing himself. Let's just put that out there. You know what I'm saying? And he's getting the bag. You know what I'm saying? In the short time period. You know what I'm saying? He came in and got the bag with the Texans in the first place, but then turned right around and said, "All right, let's get this restructure going." And now he turns around and hits him over the head for 3 for 75 with 50 guaranteed. Man, the boy getting the money, man. The boy getting the money. Willie Jack, what's your thoughts on this
one. Man, love to see it, man. Y'all already know what's going on, man. Y'all already know what's going on. So just like my dog said, 3 for 75, 50 guaranteed, sets the all-time mark for left tackles. I think 50 guaranteed, and then 50 guaranteed is the standard signing, but I think there's an additional 10 guaranteed as well that kicks in. Maybe that's the injury guarantee. And so all told, man, up to 60 million in guarantee out of that 75, like I said, represent himself. Man, get paid, man. There's nothing else that needs to be said, man. 75 million have to speak for itself, Chop. You know what I'm saying? Like 75 million don't need no help, don't need no assistance. It just show up and say, "Yeah, I'm 75." Everybody say, "Excuse me, brother." You go right to the front.
I'm here.
Yeah,
I'm here.
But no, man. But Dave, like you said, a guy that's been playing phenomenal ball. His story as well was coming out of Ole Miss. Back when Ole Miss was cutting some corners to get some studs in there. Boy, Ole Miss had a run where they had like 3-4 years. They got like the top 3-4 players in the country. Anywho, he was in that class. Was coming out the day he was coming out, the day of the draft. His stepdad was trying to extort him for some money. His stepdad had a video, the weed bong video, the gas mask bong video. That was him, Larry McCullough. The day of the draft, his stepdaddy releases this video to the press because I guess the stepson would come off with some bread or something, if I remember correctly. And honestly, that's what that caused him to drop in the draft. He was the guy that was going to go top 5. I don't know if he was going to go number 1. I can't remember the class all the way through, but he was definitely consensus top tackle in the class, and he was definitely consensus to that point to be a top 5 guy. He does take a little falls to 13, and then winds up in, I think it was Miami. I'm pretty sure it's Miami. I think he's there for a couple years, trades over to Houston, and then, like I said, man, re-ups when he first got there. Man, these last 2-3 years of ball probably, man, all told, man, he may be the best pass blocking left tackle in football. I mean, just if we're just talking just pure pass protection, his combination of size, his length, athleticism, mirror, he's probably the guy. If he's not number 1, he's number 2. I would think off the top of my head. And so, if we're just talking protecting passers, and so excellent guy, still pretty young as well. And like I said, man, he's handling his business and handling his business ourselves. Man, day one game's real in the building. He said, yeah, representing himself too, show you right. And so, he saved another 3% or whatever the age is going to take and still set the market. So we love to see that.
Gotcha. Yeah, and it's one of those things now where it's like, okay, you solidify your tackle, right? All right, now we all watching. You got the number 2 overall pick, and you know what? This is the crazy part, Willie Jack. You remember when we was talking about Lovie Smith, him losing a job, and the win at the last game of the season.
Yeah, you damn right.
Now, with the way the situation played out, with Panthers trading up to their number 1 spot, that could be the difference between them getting Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud. You know what I'm saying? Now, we don't know what's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? Who knows who's going to be better as of right now. But if Bryce Young go 1 and C.J. Stroud go 2 and Bryce Young turn out to be this immaculate, cold quarterback, they're going to be kicking themselves.
But that's the thing, man. Like, for everything that Bryce Young is, and we talked about quarterbacks already, man. Y'all should have been here if you wasn't here. We talked about quarterbacks, and both of us to this point, based on the film in college, man, we had Bryce Young as number 1. But honestly, I can't tell you what ceiling realistically, I don't see him. He was dominant in college. He was a dominant quarterback in college for a number of reasons. But the things that made him so great aren't things that, I don't know, man. I just don't know how it's going to work out at this next stage, honestly. So I'm not going to lie, man. I feel like Bryce Young is the quarterback that I don't want to have to take. Like, if I'm Houston, I don't want to have to take him because there's a lot of stuff that still has to work and play itself out. So it's like, I low key was like, go ahead, take Carolina. Go ahead, take Carolina. They were like, oh,
That stress ain't on you.
yeah, you know what I'm saying? This is like I didn't was like, oh man, damn. All right, well, guess we take CJ. You know what I'm saying? But low key, you was probably a little more comfortable. Like, man, if I can't do nothing else, look, yeah, you know what I'm saying? So, but yeah,
I
no,
get it.
hoping to wish them well for sure. But the talk around town is that the Panthers are all in on are gearing towards CJ anyway, and so they still may end up with Bryce Young, assuming if that was their guy, you know, all along. But man, who knows, man? Can't wait to see.
I got you, man. Let's go to the defensive backfield, man. Let's go to the defensive backs, man. We had a move, man. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, he signs a deal with the Lions, man. And actually, I was surprised by this one at first, because I expected the Eagles to try to bring him back or try to work out a deal with him, but it didn't work out, man. So pieces had to go. You know what I'm saying? He was due for some bread, but he signs a 1-year deal with the Lions worth $8 million with $6.5 million guaranteed. And it's instantly is something that Detroit needed for sure. With the way that their defense struggled last year, from the front seven to the back end, you know, the way that they struggled, you know, throughout the season, they needed a piece like this, a piece that can come be a tone setter for them, you know, can bring a little bit of attitude to the defensive backfield. This is exactly what they needed in CJ Gardner-Johnson, and I like the move. And of course, you know, well, y'all probably know me and Willie Jack was kind of, you know, became some little fans of the Lions, man. We liked what the Lions were doing, you know, especially coming down the stretch and, you know, what they was able to do as far as putting up points all season long and, you know, the performance of Jared Goff. Like, there's a lot of good things that we saw from the Detroit Lions that wasn't so Detroit Lions-ish, you know, as we're used to seeing. And I was pretty excited, man, and a big fan of Dan Campbell too, you know. So this CJ Gardner-Johnson move is a move that, you know, is definitely going to, you know, continue to move them in the right direction as they continue to move forward and try to compete in the division. Willie Jack, what's yours?
No, exactly right, man. Just like my dog Chop said, man. Dan Campbell won us over, man. Dan Campbell won us over. He got those boys. It's one thing to get a team to compete, but to keep a team competing that week after week after week is suffering 12th round split decision losses. You know what I mean? But to keep that team's morale up, because we've seen teams break. We've seen everybody's turned on TV one time. You can see when the team turns it in. You know what I mean? But that wasn't that, man. So that's a kudos to Dan Campbell. But like he said, man, love the move. The Eagles, man, and shout out to our dog Day One Games in the building, man. He's one of the resident Eagle fans in here, man. He said, man, he hates to see him go. But excellent preseason addition. You get him from the Saints for next to nothing. He comes in, has a tremendous impact on the defense, ties for the lead in interceptions, missed a handful of games and still did that. And then, like I said, man, the Eagles are in a pretty tough cap situation. They came close to they almost lost 3 of those 4 top guys in the secondary. They were on the verge of losing Bradbury, Darius Slay, and then now they actually have lost Chauncey Gardner Jr. And so, yeah, man, moving some money around, getting things in place, getting things signed. You save Slay, and then looks like Chauncey Gardner Jr. was the one who had to, you know, bite the dust. You know what I'm saying? You got money for 2, you got 3 that need it. And so it looks like he's the odd man out. And then to see his deal, man, I was really hoping my Steelers were going to backdoor and grab him as well. You know what I mean? And then especially seeing the money.
You wanted the Steelers to get every DB that was coming, but you wanted Jalen Ramsey. Man, that boy wanted CJ. That boy wanted Slade.
I wanted Slade for about 30 minutes, man. Today was playing. I was like, oh man, that'd be perfect. But yeah, man. But I love the addition, like you said, and the shout out to the Lions. The Lions have really revamped that whole secondary. That secondary this last season, that defense was the reason they were. I think they finished. Were they 8-9, or did they get over the hump at 9-8? But they were right around 500. They lost 4 games on the strength of that defense. They lost 4 games because the offense scored 30 fourth quarter points and the defense gave up 31. I mean, like that defense was a definite hindrance, I guess, to the overall success of that team for a lot of that season. And so, in addition to this Chauncey Gardner piece, he's the last piece they brought in to this point. But they already they brought over Cam Sutton. From the Steelers, give him a very good free agent contract, 3 years, $33 million. Then you bring over Emmanuel Mosley, another 1 year kind of proven deal as well. A guy that's very talented, was with the Niners, got injured, hurt his knee, but when he's been on the field, he's been a plus player. And so you get him on a 1 year rental to see if he can prove and make some of himself. You get Chauncey Gardner Jr. as well, still looking to cash in and get a bag. And so that whole secondary has kind of been revamped. And now, like I said, man, they get to head to the draft, focus on adding pieces to their front seven, and that Detroit Lions defense this time next year, man, could be coming off a very special year.
Gotcha. And they did get over the hump, Willie Jack. They finished 9-8. That was 9-8.
Okay, 9-8, yeah, bro. They lost 4 games. That defense on 4 games, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like that defense on 4. Like, that defense on probably 2, and Jared Goff over another 2 with the Butterfingers he had for a little stretch, bro. Where he feel like he had a fourth quarter fumble and about 3 losses.
Are you sure? Hold on, I don't know, man. Either way, they definitely left some games out there for sure. You know, with the defense. All right. A couple other things, Willie Jack, and I don't know if you want to run through these or not, man. I'll run through them really quick. But your Steelers, man, signed the former guard of the Philadelphia Eagles, man. So speaking of the Eagles, they signed guard Isaac Seumalo.
There you go.
2-year contract, man. You see me? You see me?
No. He lumbled at first. He recovered though.
I recovered. Yeah, man. They signed former Eagles guard, man, Seumalo, man, and I'm not mad about it. You know, the Steelers, the one position where I felt like they needed a little bit of help to get Najee Harris going. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know if you guys played it. For those that are in here, seen one of the episodes that we talked about in the past, I'll compare Najee Harris to a guy like, you know, Derrick Henry in a sense. If you can't get at least a little bit of a push on that front line, then it's gonna be hard for him to get going. He's a guy that gets going once he has a little bit of steam behind him, and once he has a little bit of steam, that's when you're gonna get top-notch Najee Harris, the Najee Harris that you know that I had number 1 coming out of the draft. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's when you're gonna be able to see that, and by adding, first off, any offensive lineman that the Eagles had last year, I want them. Give me anybody. Yeah. I want you. And if you adding somebody from the Eagles, man, it's a good move. I ain't mad at it. So I think this is for sure a step in the right direction for that offense in terms of y'all run game, you know, and also being able to protect Pickett in the long run to allow him to develop, you know, the way that he should. And I know y'all still got some other things y'all want to do too, but you know, this is the step in the right direction. So I like the move.
No, me as well, man. I was excited to see us. Anytime we do something in free agency, I'm excited because we're just not a big free agent team. We do a little bargain shopping, but we generally build through the draft type of thing. And so the offensive line was definitely a soft spot on the team, man. And like I said, Najee, man, y'all ain't seeing yet because the team ain't, you know what I'm saying, where it needs to be. Najee's running hard. Najee is running hard, just as hard or harder than anybody in the league right now. And that's without having a line to give him any type of real room in the run game, or at least the second half of the season was a lot of improvement. But, man, you get a real quality championship style caliber guy in Isaac Seumalo. Boom. You know what I'm saying? Coming off a Super Bowl loss. And so, great addition, dog. I'm trying to tell you, I might have been a year too early on my prediction. I had this preseason for Najee, but I might have been a year too early. But with the offensive line shaping up the way it's looking, man, we added a couple other pieces there as well. And yeah, man, so Najee's ready to have a real breakout, like 1,400 yard, 200 broke tackle monster season. Like, yeah, he's gonna be a real problem.
All right, for sure. All right, well, we're looking forward to seeing. And then the other one, man, I know you told me, you know, it ain't really that big a deal, and it's pretty much for a backup position. But we're gonna stay. Well, since we've been talking about the Eagles, we'll stay with him, man. Marcus Mariota, man, he signs a deal with the Philadelphia Eagles, man, as the backup to Jalen Hurts, man. And I put this one in the news because I think this is an awesome spot for him. I think it's a great spot. 1 year, $5 million deal. Coming off of a season where he had like 19 total touchdowns. But I just think this offense is specifically designed for a quarterback like, you know, with the similar skill set as Jalen Hurts. You know what I'm saying? So having a Marcus Mariota, you know, right there behind him, I think it only makes sense. I like the move, you know, and I like what the Eagles did right there.
No, I'm glad you mentioned that as well, because it lets me mention this. The fact that Marcus Mariota, off that season he had last year in Atlanta, where he was 9 for 23 for 86 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception for about 7 weeks till he got replaced by a third-round rookie named Desmond Ridder for Cincinnati. That Marcus Mariota, the fact that he left and was pursued in free agency and signed a $5 million contract lets me know that Cam Newton was right and he needs to be on somebody's roster. Because that ain't no reason at all that Marcus Mariota is cashing $5 million worth of checks this year coming off the season he just had.
Okay. Well, speaking of that, let's go ahead and jump into that one because I think that was a pretty big topic too. Speaking of Cam Newton, for me, I don't think the argument was ever if there was 32 quarterbacks better. I never felt like there was 32 quarterbacks that were absolutely better than Cam Newton. But the question is, okay, Cam Newton, are you gonna, if we bring you in, or are you gonna come in and are you gonna change the trajectory of our team? And also, are you okay with us working towards getting our future? You know what I'm saying? Because if you got right now at this stage and what we've seen from him the past few years, Cam Newton has been playing, super well. So if it's like, if I got him on roster, I'm most likely looking for my future and a guy that's going to be, I'm going to get in the draft or whatever the case may be. And then the other part of that too is, like you said, Willie Jack, is Cam Newton the backup? Is he okay with coming in somewhere and being a backup somewhere and mentoring or coming in when he's needed or, used for goal line situations or whatever the case may be? Like, is Cam Newton capable of that? And I'm not sure of that. I think that's the biggest thing. I don't think there's 32. I can name off about 4 or 5, 6 of them that he could have been better than this past season. But I think it's more than just that when you're talking about the QB position, franchises, and what direction they're trying to go.
No, and honestly, man, like the thing about it is, I get what he's saying, and y'all know, man, I'm a Cam Newton fan. Like, so I think Cam Newton in these last 15 years has probably been the most. His legacy has been the most like disrespected. We don't give enough credit or weight to the things that he did do and accomplish. But that all said, I understand his sentiment. But the thing about what you said is, you talk about coming in to be a competitive backup and a guy with lean on. Well, that doesn't mean he's one of the top 32. The top 32 means he needs to be a starter. I think the more accurate statement is that there's not 40 guys better than Cam Newton at the position. You know what I mean? Because I don't know honestly if he's a starter anymore. And honestly, to your point, I do get what you said because he is such a strong personality. He's such an enigmatic and charismatic figure. Guys want to be like he's the guy that kind of sets the tone, the tempo of every locker room he goes into. And then most quarterbacks, honestly, by and large, they're more likely to be caught having a beer with the coaches than the other group of players. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of the way it had been for a long time, where, like I said, the quarterback's almost an extension of the coach and ownership. You know what I mean? And so Cam Newton is a guy who, like I said, the D line wants to kick it with Cam Newton. You know what I'm saying? Nobody on the D line wants to go kick it with Ryan Tannehill. The DBs ain't trying to kick it with Ryan Tannehill. See Ryan Tannehill got going on. Like, Cam comes in and takes over a locker room. You know what I mean? And then that does just put whoever your starter is in a very precarious situation or position, because quarterbacks are divas. They have to, you know what I'm saying, the skin thin enough to be infant baby girls. You know what I'm saying? So they can't handle any other type of, you know what I'm saying? They just can't. Most of them, not all of them. I don't want to hear it because none of them were competent. None of them were comfortable with competent backups. You know what I'm saying? That's from Steve Young to Tom Brady to Peyton Manning to Brett Favre to Ben Roethlisberger, whoever the guy is. None of the guys throughout history have been comfortable having somebody, a young gun behind them that has a real shot to actually be a player. And so that's where the trouble comes into. But when a guy like Marcus Mariota signs for 5 years, especially coming off the season he had, because I don't see a difference in the last season.
$5 million.
Yeah, $5 million. I don't see a difference in the performance of Marcus Mariota gave the Falcons last year. I don't see how that performance is any better, or it's not any better or any worse. It's on par with the last outings we've seen from Cam Newton. That Carolina outing was ugly. The way it ended with the Patriots is ugly as well. There's some story behind that, man. He, you know what I'm saying, whatever it is, what it is. You're as good as the last time we seen you. Last time we seen you, it didn't look good.
And I think that was damaging for him. As much as there probably was more story behind his start or his time with the Patriots. I think that damaged him. You know what I'm saying? That damaged his play for the future. And for me, it's like, and speaking of Jarrell just mentioned Minshew. I don't think there's 32 quarterbacks better than Gardner Minshew. But if you got Gardner Minshew as your starter, you looking for a quarterback. You know what I'm saying? The same if Jacoby Brissett. That probably is not. It's not 30 based off this, especially off this last season. There's not 32 guys better than Jacoby Brissett. But if you got Jacoby Brissett, you're looking for a quarterback. You know what I'm saying? So it's that side of things. But then I like what you mentioned too about the culture, Willie Jack. As far as you said, D lineman want to hang out with Cam, and everybody wants to hang out with Cam. I like what you mentioned
around Cam, yeah.
because I think what this situation is players needing to grow out of insecurities or whatever they have, and coaches need to and ownership needing to change with the trajectory of what the league is turning into. Cam is
That's not a realistic
explain.
fam.
Let me explain. I'm gonna explain to you. Cam is an example of what today's kids and generation they get into. Cam is on TikTok, social medias, all that type of stuff. You want to name it, right? I think that and the way Cam is he's outgoing. He's gonna speak his mind. He's gonna do all that, and he has a big personality. They don't want the old school way is I don't want my backup quarterback to say nothing. I don't want him to be in anything. I don't want him to have this big personality. My backup needs to be my backup. He can't be bigger than this or that or that. If Cam Newton signs as a backup quarterback anywhere, it's a potential that he could be just his personality and persona can be bigger than whatever. You know what I'm saying? The quarterback in front of him, or
no, we saying the same thing as far as that. Yeah, that's it. Like he takes over a locker room.
So that's what I'm saying, and what I'm saying is I think owners and coaches need to get over that and understand the real player that he is and what he can actually bring to a table and sign him, because when he gets in there, nobody knows who Cam Newton's going to be. Cam Newton still be a great teammate. He still can be the teammate that can boost the morale of the entire team, or he can bring a lot to the table. But people looking at it as a distraction, if that makes sense. I don't know if it's making sense, but I'm just saying, like, if people stop looking at it that way as like, no, that's not what backup quarterback's supposed to do, and start changing with the times, I think that a situation can work like that.
No, it's not. Well, no, the thing about it is, it's not that the owners. It's not about ownership of coaches. It's the sensitive nature of starting quarterbacks. So the owners and the coaches, that attitude or the way they coddle and baby the quarterbacks, that's because the quarterbacks. That's what you have to do to keep the quarterback happy. So it's not enough about saying, well, hey, screw you, and he's playing. Well, what use is it that he loses valuable as a backup if he causes your starter to play bad or play worse? You know what I'm saying? Or like but I was saying, so like the issue, I guess, is the sensitive temperament of quarterbacks as a whole, I guess, or as a collective. But the thing about it is that that's the nature of the beast. So I don't think that's something that can just be changed by ownership. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not worth just being stubborn and saying, screw how you may feel about it. Just Justin Herbert, right? Forget how you feel about Justin Herbert. I'm breaking in Cam Newton. And then now every missed throw for Justin Herbert, now he's got to worry if Cam's going to get out there who's bigger, faster, and stronger. Well, maybe not at this age, but you get what I'm saying? And so now, like,
but see, that's the thing, though.
Worse. So now you don't want to ruin the investment of Justin Herbert just to prove a point to say, I've got a Cam Newton as my backup. Because you don't want him starting over Justin Herbert, but you do want to be a part of the team.
But I think that what you're saying, I think can be blown out of proportion a little bit. Because if any competitor that knows that I'm better, you got to come take this, they're not worried about that. Like, I don't honestly think Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow or Pat Mahomes or any of those guys will be worried about Cam Newton as their backup. Cam Newton is Cam Newton, because I'm confident in myself. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, if you go put him behind Sam Darnold, put him behind Sam Darnold.
Ain't nobody. That's why I said Justin Herbert, because Justin Herbert's a guy who's young and talented, but hasn't reached that threshold of a Joe and a Patty. But what I'm saying is, the reason we know that's not true is, if you had to ask someone who's the greatest competitor in the history of the NFL quarterback position, who would they tell you?
And you said quarterback in the quarterback position?
Yeah.
They're probably going to say Tom Brady or
Tom Brady. That's one answer. There's one answer to that question. Who's the most competitive quarterback ever? Tom Brady. Tom Brady wasn't comfortable with no-name Jimmy Garoppolo sitting behind him coming from Western Illinois, cuz. So we know it's nothing about how competitive you are.
But he didn't play bad. It didn't matter.
No. What I'm saying is, it was good or bad, it's going to be subjective. But the point is, it was an issue that Tom had to put his foot in the line and tell Belichick, you either got to trade Jimmy, or I'm going above you to Mr. Kraft, and I'm not happy. And then, you know what I'm saying? And that's how Jimmy gets to San Francisco. So it's not a matter of your competitiveness. It's just like, say, I think it's more so the temperament, the nature of that beast. And I think the quarterback, outside of any other position, because there's only one of them on the field. There's realistically one of them on the team. You know what I'm saying? So I think everything that goes into it is a little different. I think it is different for them. They saw for it for sure.
I get it, but I think the reason why it's a little different is because they drafted Jimmy G thinking like, all right, Tom Brady's getting old. Jimmy G is going to be our future quarterback. He's going to be our guy. We drafted him to be the starter at some point. The same with Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love. And the reason why Aaron Rodgers had a problem with it is because while we see Aaron Rodgers look like he's in decline, we finna draft Jordan Love because we want to, you know what I'm saying, have somebody ready to go, you know what I'm saying, as our future starter. But then it turns out Aaron Rodgers come back with 2 MVP seasons in a row. Like, no, hold on, bro. Then he caused that fuss with it. So I guess
history tells us that's how it is. Like you don't have one of those in the room.
But if you bring, I'm saying if you bring somebody in with the understanding of you are the backup, this is what it is. The personality and all that other stuff don't matter. I'm bringing him as a backup. This is a 32-year-old. I'm not bringing in 2008 Cam Newton. That was 8 years ago. I mean, 2015 Cam Newton. That was 8 years ago. I'm bringing in 32-year-old Cam Newton. Yeah, he got a big personality, but if my quarterback is worried about that, bro, he ain't my quarterback.
Bro,
I'm looking for another quarterback anyway.
That's easier said than done. You know what I'm saying? Joe Montana didn't feel good about having after 2 Super Bowls. Joe Montana feuded with Steve Young being his backup because no quarterback can sit there.
Because what did they do? They drafted him to be what? The starter.
No. He was drafted by the Buccaneers. They signed and brought in Steve Young
to do what?
Yeah, as the backup. But what I'm saying is, like, just saying, oh yeah, we drafted him. We've drafted a player, he's a backup. We signed a player, he's a backup. That's just not how it works, man. That don't mean people don't just sit in their place. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that doesn't mean anything. Realistically, everybody knows every single day this guy can take your job every single day. And quarterbacks can't handle the threat of a realistic competitor to take their job every single day.
My only thing is that I'm not gonna blanket all the quarterbacks under that. I don't believe it. I can't believe it, really, Jack.
Bruh.
I can't believe it, dog.
If Tom Brady, Joe Montana, bro, the 2 most winningest championship caliber quarterbacks in the history of this league are the prime examples. So they set the tone for everybody because I don't give a damn what Sam Darnold or what anybody else might say. The people at the top of the mountain, we know it was an issue for them, and we've seen it, like I say, from everybody else as well, man, down to your Peyton Manning and your everyone else. You know what I'm saying? So like we've seen it by the best and at the top. So that's just how it goes, man.
All right, man. I heard you, Willie Jack. Yeah. All right, man. Well, that's the news, man. That's the news. We done talked about everything, Willie Jack. I think it's about time you talk to him and let him know what's going on, man. We got to pay these bills, man. Go ahead, Willie Jack.
Yeah. Hey, man. Today's episode of Let the Field Speak, hosted by the wonderful brothers, Chop and Willie Jack.
You forgot Handsome.
Handsome. Devil there. Yeah, man. And also brought to you by the OG, man. That's the 3 Amigos, man. That's like, share, subscribe. Y'all know what's going on, man. That's like, share, subscribe. That's 3 the hard way. That's a 3-piece spicy. You cannot go wrong. Now, y'all can say it with me at home because y'all know what's coming, man. It's 3 Amigos, but it's 4 steps to this process, big dog. It's 4 steps to this process, big dog. First thing you got to do, you got to tap in, man. Just like, share, subscribe. 3 clicks and you're in the dough, man. That's all it takes. 3 clicks and you're in the dough. Then tell a friend. You know what I'm saying? Because it ain't no fun if everybody don't get none. Not only then after you tell your friend, tell a friend. And then tell your friend's friend to bring one more because we need 4, man. Bring them all down here to kick it with your dogs at Let the Field Speak, man. When we get here, do what we got to do. You know what's going on. My microphone's falling over. Excuse me there, man. I keep had stuff going on. But don't get nothing up. Don't take away from the 3 Amigos. Like, share, subscribe, man. Holding us down, man. Now back to the regular scheduled program.
All right, Willie Jack. Well, you go ahead and fix your mic, man. Go ahead and get it together. I know you was excited, man, because you were getting into some receivers. You know what I'm saying? Talk about some of these guys, man. And before we jump into it, Willie Jack, I gotta say, man, I got spoiled with the last 2 receiver groups, last 3 years of receiver groups we had come out, man. Yeah. Because this one a little different. You know what I'm saying? It ain't the same. It don't hit the same. I don't know about you or how you feel about them. but it don't hit the same
Nah.
as when Justin Jefferson came out. Then the next year Chase came out. Then the next year Wilson and them guys. It don't hit the same, dog. It don't hit the
Yeah.
same, and maybe we'll see,
The year
man.
before that was the year before that was Devontae and Jerry Judy before Justin Jefferson. So like, man, we've had it's
And
been
Henry Ruggs and all them guys. Yeah, you're right.
pretty good run. So
Yeah. So hey, we'll see. We'll see how these guys pan out because you never know. I've been proven wrong a lot of times. A lot of times these guys can come in, they can show out and show up and show out, and they prove me wrong. But we'll see, man. But we're gonna start it off at number 5, Willie Jack, and I'm gonna kick it over to you, man. I started off, I think, with the cornerbacks last week. So I'm gonna start it off with you this week, man. Who is your number 5 receiver? And we're gonna count down to 1, man.
I got you. So I end up going with Josh Downs, man.
Josh Downs.
I end up going with Josh Downs out of North Carolina. Now here the flavor of this draft is slot. It's slot receiver. Like I said, it feels like there's 12 slot receivers trying to get drafted in the first 4 rounds. It feels like I said, but Josh Downs, man, he's 5'9", 170 pounds, and so he's definitely a slot. He doesn't have any realistic outside skill set or talent or ability. I mean, like I said, when you're that size, you gotta be special to line up outside. And he doesn't have that as far as his raw athleticism goes. But he's very savvy is the word I want to use in his route running. Because he's not overly, like, he's not twitchy. He's not like, I wouldn't call him electric. You know what I mean? But he's savvy. Like, I like the pace and the tempo of his routes. You know what I mean? So it's a little, like, you know what I'm saying? So he's like, if it's going to be an 8-yard end, let's say, you know what I mean? So, like, he might jab or just do, you know what I'm saying, kind of meander or walk off. I mean, he uses stutters, like head fakes, and you know what I'm saying? I just like the way he runs routes. You know what I mean? And so gets good separation. I like his, like, and I've noticed this with a lot of these guys, because a lot of these guys look to be, they're either slots already or they're going to be slots. But he has good zone settle recognition. So when you're in a zone, you don't want to just keep bailing, hauling ass across the field. And if you're in man, you do because you're running away from somebody. But if you're in zone, guys generally they're not giving full-fledged chase. You know what I mean? Like they're maybe matching up if you're coming to if it's a match zone, they're going to follow you once you come across. But for the most part, guys are playing an area. So recognizing when to kind of sit down, finding those windows, and finding those windows that get you seen by your quarterback. Like, I like how he does that. You know what I mean? So he plays those windows good, which is definitely something that's going to carry over. Quicker than fast. Now he's a smaller guy, but he does attack the football. You know what I mean? And so he doesn't necessarily, just because he's small doesn't have to necessarily play small. But then now, like in that same token, he's not going over the top of much of anybody. But will attack the ball, man, when it's in the air. His hands were inconsistent. I guess I watched some of last year as well, and then I looked at some advanced statistics, and then I seen that as well, because when I seen a couple games from last year, I was like, damn, can the boy catch? And then I guess he had a problem with catches last year that he cleaned up this year, as far as the stats tell us, and it shows. And so there's something to work with there. But overall, man, I feel like he's just, I don't know how good he'll ever be, but he'll be a guy that he'll be a 3 on teams, and I don't even know, man, because he's this is a rough class. I don't want to knock it. There's things about him I like, but like I said, he is pretty limited. But I do think he can be I think he's a high floor, low ceiling guy. Like, I don't know how much better he's going to be than what he is now, but he'll clean up and he'll polish off a little bit more, and then he'll be a dependable move to change slot. Like I said, he's going to be a guy that's going to live between 8 and 12 yards. You know what I mean? The type of guy like I don't think he's going to be the level of this player, but a guy like Jarvis Landry, who's going to get you 100 catches, 110 catches a year, all of them went for 8 yards. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just what he is. He's just a reliable check down, and you know what I'm saying, and move around and do that type of thing. And so, but yeah, Josh Downs is where I started, man, at 5.
Got you. And I talked about him too, Willie Jack, in mine, and I wanted to go with somebody off the charts a little bit, with my number 5. But I do like Josh Downs, man, and I agree with a lot of what you said. And like you said, I think he's a guy that doesn't have a terribly low ceiling. I mean, low floor. He'll have a spot. He'll have his chances to play, and he has that savviness, man, that'll get him, key catches, and I could see him being a key player, in somebody's system. You know what I mean? So We got a lot of small guys, man. That's it, man. A lot of small guys in this draft. So I'm gonna start off with my number 5, Willie Jack, and I went a little different route, man. I went with LSU's Kayshon Boutte, man. Kayshon Boutte.
Really?
I went with him as my number 5 guy, man. Centered at, I think he's 5'11".
Yeah, I had him listed at 5'11", 195.
Yeah, there you go. 5'11", 195 pounds, man. Not a huge guy, but not terribly small too. That's around the size that Odell Beckham is, or Odell Beckham was coming out.
Yeah, he's a well-built 5'11". You know what I mean?
For sure.
Like
Yeah.
195 is solid. You know
So
what I mean?
the one guy I thought about when I watched him, and I remember because the Rams got him, is Stedman Bailey. I don't know if y'all remember him, man.
From West Virginia?
Yeah, from West Virginia. He
Damn.
reminded me a lot of Stedman Bailey because he was small. When you look at his, I wouldn't say he's small.
No, Stedman Bailey was small. Boutte ain't small.
But Stedman Bailey played, when you watched him play, because he played for the Rams. When you watched him play, man, he played a lot bigger than probably what his average than your normal 6'2" guy. You know what I'm saying? He was a lot smaller than that. But that was just the first comparison that I thought of when I watched him play. Because on top of that, Stedman Bailey wasn't the craziest athlete too. The athlete coming out of West Virginia was Tavon Austin. You know, Tavon Austin was the explosive guy. But I watched Kayshon Boutte, man. I like his game because he doesn't do a lot of playing around. He gets right into his route. He can be physical off of his off of press releases, so he gets right into it. He's not too worried about the press. So he's a guy who I feel like he can actually play outside, unlike a lot of the receivers that we may end up talking about on this list. But he's one of the guys I think can play outside or inside. You can move him around. He can do a lot of different things. I think he does a great job of being deceptive with his routes. I watched him a few times turn defenders around, just to create this separation. Get on one side, trying to hop to the other side. He's not, like I said, a super athlete. He only ran a 4.5, you know what I'm saying? And he's still not huge, you know what I'm saying? So those two usually don't go together super well. So you have to have something to be able to get you open. And like I said, his deceptiveness in his routes and the way that he, can change direction, I really like what he's able to do there. I think he uses his body well too. When I watch him run his routes and put himself in place, with defenders guarding him. So I really like that and what he brings to the table. But the thing that got him at this 5 spot, and the reason he's not up is, like I said, a lot of his athletic ability, man. He doesn't have the athleticism, but I do like some of the other intangibles that he has, that makes him, can make him a solid receiver at the next level and could be a legit number 2. I think his ceiling is a real legit number 2, and with a little bit of gadgetness in him, a guy that can be moved around a little bit. So I like him as my number 5 guy.
No, and I looked at him, man. He didn't make my 5, and for him, man, it was. I think his college experience really hampered like his development, because this is a guy that came in, was a top recruit. He was a top. I want to say he was a 5-star recruit. He was definitely one of like the top 5 receivers in the country at the time he was coming in. And then it just didn't work out with him at LSU. And then they bring in Chip Kelly. Yeah, Chip Kelly takes over. He's getting kicked off the team. First he was going to lead the team, and came back. Then he was going to get kicked off. Then they took him back. Then he was going to leave early and go to the NFL. Then he ended up coming back again and went in and played. He was injured. And so I feel like he never developed. I feel like the player he showed, because to really get a good look at him, you got to watch his freshman tape. And so, and if you look at him as a freshman, you think, okay, like, this is a guy who's got something. You know what I mean? Because like I said, he's got good size. So 5'11", we would say is a small quarterback, or small receiver. But not when you're 195 pounds. You know what I'm saying? And not built the way he's built. It's an NFL build. You know what I mean? Like, it is an NFL.
It reminds me of
he's the same size.
Huh?
He's the same size as Odell Beckham.
Odell Beckham. If you like a little older football, man, Chris Chambers, man. I throw Chris Chambers out there for you.
From Miami, the Dolphins. Yeah.
Chris Chambers was about 5'10", 5'11" too.
Yeah, and you know what? And I'll lean there because Odell looks a little leaner. Like, he looks like real boxy. He almost looks like kind of like Chris Chambers. When you think, almost built like a slimmer running back. You know what I mean? Like, he's that type of build. But honestly, like, his hands were inconsistent. I didn't think he's more of a guy that I don't think he runs routes. He just kind of gets open. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like, and that's why I don't. I think he, at least to start, I think he's super raw. Like he's a guy drafting the man. I think he draft day 3 because he's such a wild card. But he's a guy that like he may not bear fruit for 3 years because I think he's really got to learn how to play receiver. I just don't think he had much development or improvement from his freshman year at LSU. But like I said, I do like him with the ball in his hands. I like his run after catch, and like I said, he's a built guy, so he can fight through contact. He can do a lot of things, but I think his route running is needs a lot of work. Like I said, just super raw, and like I said, I think he's more so a guy that I would say instead is when not, but he didn't like I said he doesn't have the production, but the way a guy like Laviska Shenault had to be used for Carolina now when he came out of Colorado, where he was half a running back, half a receiver, and he generally just ran bubble screens, tunnel screens, swing routes. You know what I'm saying? Quick hitches or stuff. Just things to get the ball in his hands because, and it's not even overly shifty, but he's just a strong runner. You know what I mean? So there's definitely things to work with there, but I think it's way too much project for me, man. I couldn't put him in the 5.
I got you. All right, moving on to my number 4, man. I'm gonna go to Boston College, man. When I'm on the number 4 guy, and I'm gonna go Zay Flowers, man. Zay Flowers. I remember the first time I watched Zay Flowers, right? So, I don't even know if you know this, Willie Jake, but I used to do I think I did tell you. I did a little bit of PFF work, man.
Oh yeah, no, I remember. Yeah,
I did a little bit of PFF work. I don't know if it's 2 or 3 years ago, but it was when Zay Flowers was a freshman. Mm-hmm. Boston College was one of those teams I had to study a lot. I had to study everybody. You know what I'm saying? This was when AJ Dillon was still the running back there, man. Yeah. And I was watching a lot of them. And Zay Flowers was a guy that stood out immediately as a freshman. As a freshman, he wasn't getting all the clock, but they were bringing him on the field a lot because he was explosive. And that's the first thing that you see when you see him on the field. It's his explosiveness, his dynamic ability, his ability to make plays with the ball in his hand. You know what I'm saying? When he has the ball, it's a possibility of it going 6 every time he has it in his hands. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? No matter where he catches it at, whether it's a bubble, whether it's a quick screen, whether it's a slant, whether it's end around out of the backfield, and one of the things that I thought, one of the people that I thought about, and this may not be a more accurate comparison, but it was a running back that I thought of. It was Tariq Cohen, man. Tariq Cohen, when Tariq Cohen has the ball in his hands, man, he's dangerous with it. And Zay Flowers is that type of guy. Except, so he's a slot guy. He'll run a lot of routes out of the slot. He'll create separation immediately. From the defenders that are guarding him. I like the way he's able to do that. Now his hands. Now he was a guy where I feel like, okay, man, his hands might be a little bit suspect, but with how explosive and dynamic he can be with just the ball in his hands, I feel like he can be a weapon regardless. And he's going to be a weapon immediately. He's going to be a guy where, all right, when we bring him in, we're going to have some plays specifically for him because of his ability. We got to give him the ball. You know what I'm saying? So he's that type of guy, so as soon as he gets drafted, expect him to be used immediately. So I got Zay Flowers as my number 4 spot above Kayshon Boutte, because of his, like I said, dynamic ability and his ability to change a game and flip a field just like that. So I got Zay Flowers in my number 4 spot.
Got you. And then honestly, he's my number 4 as well. And this one fits into a comment by our dog, man. Our dog Miles dropped in. He said, the league's transitioning to a slot league. It's been a tight end league for the past couple of years. So what do you think? And so it's a good point as well. Now the thing about that is honestly, they go hand in hand because the slots and tight ends work the same part of the field. And so I do agree with you saying. So like Travis Kelce's been probably the most dynamic slot receiver in football for the last 6 years. You know what I mean? And then during this time or whatever, you got your Dan Wallace, you got your George Kittles, you've got your Mark Andrews. Before that, man, we had our Greg Olsons. And so it has been man, we've had our Gronkowskis, we had our Aaron Hernandez's before he started catching bodies. You know what I'm saying? And so Jimmy Graham as well, Antonio Gates, like it keeps going on. And so probably since Tony Gonzalez, or at least in modern football for guys our age, or guys in their mid-30s, who really got into football like in the mid 90s, I'd say. You know what I mean? Where Tony Gonzalez was the guy that set the table for me for all these guys. Now, somebody who's seen the game before me and Chopper say, well, man, Tony Gonzalez had to come from John Mackey, and John Mackey had to come from Dick Bucket. Or, you know, so we, no disrespect to them. I just wanted to put that out there. But just like he said, and so now if we look at those guys we just named a tight end, that's also been the influx of the heavy volume slot receiver. Wes Welker got that party started, or for the most part, you know what I mean, or kind of re-emphasized it with what he was doing with the Dolphins. Then Bill Belichick goes and gets him back to the Patriots. Then from there you get your Julian Edelmans, and we've got guys now, your Cooper Kupps now, like guys like Cooper Kupp that were scratching top 20 status as a receiver, and then in the right system, in the right scheme, now he's the Triple Crown winner for the league. You know what I mean? So your Keenan Allen, Michael Thomas, what we saw him do.
Cole Beasley's, Julian Edelman's, you know what I'm saying? So like Hunter Renfro's.
Hunter, exactly right. And so, yeah, so just like you said, so like I don't think it's one versus the other, tight end versus slot. I think it's just that time, just the middle of the field. So just that short intermediate part of the field is just a hot spot, which is a very good point, because in a draft like this, where, like I said, 10 out of the top 12 guys are probably slot receivers, honestly, or need to spend time or need to play both, or maybe you aren't so comfortable with them going inside and outside. And so that's a good point as far as what you said. But no, I had Zay at 4 as well. Same thing he said. He's electric. That's the first thing I wrote, is electric, dynamic, all those type of words. I put he's a weapon, just like you said. And so when you were talking,
like Alvin Kamara. Yeah, go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Well, no, that's something else. That's something else. But no, it's not like you were talking. Instead of Tariq Cohen, a guy I would say more. No, and well, he's not this guy. This level of he's twitchy, but the way Percy Harvin was used. Because Percy Harvin,
I like that.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, you didn't want Percy just lined up all day as your number 2 receiver, but you definitely didn't want to. You weren't just wanting to give him handoffs out the dot either. You know what I'm saying? So like, you had to use him in both. He's got to get 4 carries and 6. He's got to get 10 touches, and they've got to come 3 or 4 different ways. He needs 2 or 3 carries. He needs 2 or 3 screens or reverses. He needs 4 or 5. You know what I'm saying? He needs 4 or 5 catches. He needs 2 or 3 punt returns. You know what I'm saying? Like, he needs to touch the ball in any way you can, because he's got real home run ability in the open field. You know what I mean? And so, but just like you said, man, the reason he's at 4, and I almost put him at 3, but I went ahead and put him at 4 because he's another guy. He's 5'9", 180 pounds, and he gained weight to get that 180. When he showed it to the combine, I think he was 181. I think he gained almost 15 pounds. He said he gained 13 pounds. But he's limited to the slot. And he's limited to the slot in a way. It's one thing to the slot where we can still run the entire offense through you, and another thing to be limited to the slot and you have to be you're the sizzle to the steak. Like, you just can't feed, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we can't go through the slot like Cooper Kupp or like Keenan Allen. We can't go through the slot, like, we can't use you in that aspect, but in a role more so, like I said, like a guy like Percy Harvin, or even early Tyreek Hill. You know what I'm saying? Like, very early Tyreek Hill, before, like, as he learned and developed and came up. But those first 2 years where he was half running, well, I don't think he doesn't have the body thickness to actually play real running back stance like Tyreek did. But the way he was used is what I'm getting at. You know what I mean? So Tyreek touched the ball 12 times, 4 of them might have been catches in a game. But you know what? Out of those 12 touches, 1 of them might have been a touchdown. Like, that's the type of explosiveness that he has. Another thing I like, man, that I want to real quick, he's spunky in the run game. Like, he ain't blowing nobody up, but you know what I'm
saying? He'll get with it. He'll get with it.
Yeah, like, he'll get after you a little bit. He was like the kind of he was like when people talk about little terriers, little ain't about dogs, like I said, like, ain't gonna bust a crate, but man, they gonna make a lot of noise though. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was spunky. And so I wanted to shout him out there. Do I go to 3 or do you go to 3? My fault.
You go to 3.
Okay, yeah, I was just in a row. The reason, and I was going back and forth between him and this next guy at 3, and my 3 is going to be Quentin Johnston. And the thing I wrote about Quentin Johnston, the thing I wrote about Zay Flowers, because, another thing I should have said, Zay Flowers definitely plays bigger than his size. You know what I mean? That's another thing I want to give him too. Like, he plays the ball well in contested catch situations. You know what I'm saying? But number 3 guy is going to be Quentin Johnston, and he's your prototypical size height, weight, speed guy. You know what I mean? They had him listed at 6'4". I think at the combine he might have measured either 6'2" or 6'3", but he was listed 6'4", 215. I think it came in.
6'3", 208. He
Okay,
came in
yeah, came in
6'3".
6'3", so 6'3", 208. But good height, good weight. I want to say he ran 4'4", like a mid 4'4" 40.
It was a
So,
4. I think it was a 4-4.
yeah, I want to
I'll
say
go find it for you, but go ahead.
I got you. Yeah, I want to say it's like a 4'4", like a good 4'4", like a 4'43", or somewhere in there, 4'43", 4'45", whatever. But so he's got all that going for him. But I think he plays like Zay. He plays the game like he's a Zay Flowers. He plays the game. He plays small. That's what I want to say. He's 6'3", 210 and runs 4'4". And so, man, that
Well, he didn't run it. Okay, so it don't show his number. So I don't
at
like
the combine, but yeah, or maybe it's estimated that he has 4'4".
Right.
And I'll tell you what, looking at him, because he looks to have decent speed. It's not crazy elite burner speed, but it's very good, respectable speed. And so I would say he's probably a mid 4'4" guy. Like I said, 4'43", 4'45". I put him. I give him that. Like I said, because he does show good speed, but I think he plays small. And so I think what I wrote down is he's a 5'10" receiver and a 6'4" receiver body. You know what I mean? And then he has. I made another comparison as well. He's a stretch forward. You know what I'm saying? Like he's a point forward. He's a guy. He's LeBron, or he's LeBron James. Well, no, I won't say he's LeBron James getting buckets, but I'm saying like he's a guy. He's got that size. But he wants to. He plays small. I'm just gonna leave it at that. He plays small, and so he wins with.
Basically, what you just told me was MJ the greatest. That's what I heard.
Man, yeah, you already know that. You already know where I'm at with that. You already know what's going on. But he's got really good quickness. He's got really good shiftiness, and especially given his size. So guys that big generally don't get he's got shifty and quickness. The way he plays the position, it's like a guy who's 5'10". If he was 5'10", 185, you know what I'm saying? Like that's what it looks like, or that's the way his game looks to me when I watch it. To be that big, I was underwhelmed. That was the kind of the theme of his tape. He's not overly aggressive at the catch point. In fact, like I was watching, I want to say it was the game against Oklahoma State where there was 2 touchdowns taken away from him. You know what I'm saying? One was just like a short fade ball in the corner, and just like I said, just got out battled at the catch point. DB stripped him, and then another where it was he was like I don't know, man. I'm gonna say like a dig route. He's coming inside and gets hit and gets the ball jarred and knocked loose. It's 2 touchdowns. Now he had a touchdown that game as well, but a 3 touchdown day was 1 touchdown day. You know what I'm saying? Like he just got out physical at the catch point. But again, we're talking about a guy listed at 6'4", 215. So it's just when what I was expecting to see, I just didn't see. He's got very good run after catch ability though. Like I say, he's very quick. He's very shifty. His go-to route and go-to move, he runs hitches, and then he boom snatch and bail out. You know what I'm saying? And then he can take off and get some good run after catch. But yeah, man, he can be out physical at the line of scrimmage. Like you can get in his chest. He just doesn't play well with his size at all. You know what I'm saying? He's Joel Embiid trying to shoot threes. You know what I'm saying? Get your ass on the block, get some buckets. You know what I'm saying? We'll let you come out here. You know what I'm saying? We'll let you come out here 2-3 times a game, but you go down there and get me 20 first. You know what I mean? So it's that type of thing. He's the only one of these guys that's got like prototypical like number 1 size or X size, but I don't think that's who he is. He's a 2. You know what I'm saying? Like he's a 2 because, like I said, like I don't like him at the line of scrimmage. Like guys are getting his chest and he won't be able to move. You know what I'm saying? Like he's just not overly physical at the line of scrimmage. I think he does do well. They used him inside and outside in the offense he was in. I think that's something he can still do as well. Because I would prefer him to be like on the moves. I want to line up as like Z and let him motion in at the snap and free releases. You know what I'm saying? To let him really open up and use that speed, or let him threaten guys off the line and then throw the brakes on, get it, and then make a guy miss and run for another 10, 15 yards. Like that's his game. But I don't think it's number 1. But another thing I wanted to say as well. That TCU quarterback was trash. Max Dugans. Man, look. I'm not gonna lie. For everything y'all say about the transfer portal and guys like Caleb Williams and guys like, you know what I'm saying, Shiloh Sanders and Shador Sanders or whatever, the transfer portal could have been a friend to Quentin Johnston because there's a lot of catches, a lot of yards, a lot of touchdowns not in his stat sheet that he gets if he's anywhere else. with as desperate as Alabama was for receivers, I'd have loved to see the receiver that he could have been playing with Bryce Young and then playing over there with some people that probably could have screwed him up a little better as well, man. Now, I don't want to knock TCU. That's kind of the homes. I'm here in Dallas, man. They right up the street in Fort Worth, so I'm happy to see their success. But that offense and that quarterback didn't do him any favors. That's a guy that, man, somebody owes him about 400 more receiving yards, 30 more catches, 6 more touchdowns for sure. You know what I'm saying? So, but he's the guy I had at my 3.
Gotcha. And Willie Jack, I'm gonna stay there with you, man, because he's my number 3 guy as well. And the you know who I thought about when I watched him? Kevin White.
Yeah, Chicago. Where he got drafted by Chicago, West Virginia, another West Virginia.
Yeah, and he
was coming in with Amari, or no?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they came in the same year, but Kevin White, like, he reminds me a lot of Kevin White with the size and the height and stuff like that. The only difference is Kevin White had the ball skills. You know what I'm saying?
He played big. Like he would go get it. Yeah.
He actually played big. You know what I'm saying? It was a reason why they was comparing him to like Larry Fitzgerald before he stepped into the league. Now, see what he turned into, which is the reason why I got Quentin Johnson at my number 3 spot. You know what I'm saying? Because I see a lot of like similar qualities, not going up and getting the ball. That's not one of them, because Kevin White, I think, did that still better than Quentin Johnson. But it's something about having a prototypical guy like you mentioned, Willie Jack, at the position that's able to do a lot of the basic things, that checks a lot of those boxes. Mm-hmm. It's something about being able to have that option on the field with you, and him being able to develop. You know what I'm saying? You still can't knock that side of things. You can look at a player and see where he's at now, but then there's another side of that is, okay, what is he developing to? All right, and what can we do with him? What can we work with? Mm-hmm. And I think that's what a lot of teams are going to see in Quentin Johnson, because in terms of like his skill and on the field play, like he's not a guy that's going to create a lot of separation. He's not going to do that. He is a solid athlete, not the most explosive. You know what I'm saying? He does provide an instant big target for a QB. You know what I'm saying? As a big guy, you see a slant and you see him get his body in front. 9 times out of 10, it's like, okay, we can throw this ball. The difference is, though, like you said, Willie Jack, he has to be stronger. You know what I'm saying? He has to get stronger at the point of attack when it comes to attacking the ball. Stronger hands to be able to hold on to those tough balls that they're going to count on him to make. You know, you can't come in the league and playing big. No, they want you to. I mean, you can come in the league playing small, but you're 6'3" and 200 pounds. Yeah. You got to come play your size. You know what I'm saying? So those are things he's going to have to get stronger, and I got to work on that. So I think he has a solid catch radius. You know,
for sure. He's got all the natural things that come with
and I think that's just it, Willie Jack. I'm not even gonna try to break his full game down. He has the basics and like the natural ability of a number 1 receiver, but can he turn into that? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? And I see you just put a comment over here. Yeah. I'll go ahead and talk, and I'll let you do it. But in terms of like I don't see AJ Brown in him, because I don't see the physicality. I don't see the.
No, it's two different worlds right there.
I don't think that's the route running that he have. But I will say, like I said, I do like his run after catch ability. His ability to see things in the split second when he gets the ball in his hand. He is another guy that gets hit with a lot of screens and things like that. So, like I said, with the ball in his hands, he can make some plays. He'll do some things. He'll break some tackles. You know, but. He's going to be a guy that's going to have to develop, you know, in order for him to be a legit starter, because he's a guy that has a high ceiling but a really low floor. Like it could be a bust. You know what I'm saying? It could be another Kevin White or Calvin Benjamin or any of those type of guys we can see. And I wouldn't even say Calvin Benjamin is a bust, because he need to have a couple good years.
No, I didn't. He was a bust. You was right.
He had his first his rookie year. He came out and busted with 1,000 with Cam Newton.
Nah, yeah, but that ain't gonna be enough to say with no bust. He was the number 1 receiver. He was receiver.
That's cool. That's fine.
Yeah,
I can take that. I can take that. All right.
But I said, like I said, man, I was trying to think of a guy because I almost wanted to say like Sammy Watkins a little bit, but no, not. I couldn't put a name on who he would put me in the mind of, but No, go ahead, man. Is it you on two or me on two?
Me on two, and then you come back with your 2-1. But my number two, man, I'm going with Ohio State, man. Ohio State has been producing a lot of good receivers, man. A lot of good receivers over the last few years, man. I'm going Jackson Smith and Jigba, man. Jackson Smith and Jigba, I like watching him, and he is another guy who I think is a legit number two. I think from when I saw him on the field, I didn't think he would come in at this size, but after getting sized up at the combine, man, he came in 6'1", 196. You know what I'm saying? So to me, he was a little bigger than what I thought he was on the field, but he's a guy, man. He can play inside or out. I think he can be moved around the field, and I think he can be solid at each one of those. I don't think he's a guy that has any glaring weaknesses. You know what I'm saying? If anything, you would say he's not the most explosive. You know, he's not running away from people. You know, but I watched Reggie Wayne for years not run away from people and still get open. You know what I'm saying? And that's a guy who I thought about when I watched him play. I don't know if he's a Hall of Famer like Reggie Wayne.
You know what? I like that. I'm gonna think about that. I like that.
Yeah, and like I said, it's too early. I hate to call people Hall of Famer. Yeah. Reggie Wayne's a Hall of Famer, but you know what I'm saying? Reggie Wayne is a number two. He wasn't the most athletic. He wasn't running past people, but he had all of the
supreme route runner.
Supreme route running. He had the hands. He had ways of getting open. You know what I'm saying? He had really good body control. That's one of the things that I really liked about Jackson Smith, right? Is because that's one of the things that they talk about all the time when you watch Devontae Adams play is how late he shows his hand, how late he adjusts to the ball.
They said about Randy Moss as well, late hand.
Yeah, so it's something about being able to run and just a less, because a lot of times the defender is watching you. If the defender is watching you, he's taught. I'm a DB. We're taught to play through the hands. If we don't have a hand on you or a body on you, and we're able to look back at the ball, we're playing through the hands. So if your hands are not showing until the last minute, it's hard for us to react in time to play through your hands. And he has the ability to show late. Another part of that too, as far as him adjusting to the ball, is holding your defender off and not allowing them to. So the best way I can explain this, let's say I'm running up the field, right? I'm going this way. I have a defender on my left shoulder. The ball is thrown to my outside here. It's like a fade ball. Mm-hmm. Instead of him drifting to the ball right away, he holds his defender right here with his shoulder. He'll keep him here until the last minute, then he'll adjust. Because if he goes and adjusts now, the defender is coming with him and is going to ride with him.
I know they come out.
But if he holds him here until the last minute, it's harder to adjust to that ball, and he does a good job of that. Those are the small things when you watching receivers like him, and that's why the reason I compared him to like a guy like Reggie Wayne. Because like I said, you have to be able to do these small things that's going to get you catches versus, playing it, just thinking you can just drift to the ball and try to catch the ball, but really you're hurting yourself. Those are the type of things that create that separates the okay receivers.
That's good and great. Yeah.
Great receivers. You know what I'm saying? And he has those intangibles. I like what I see from Jackson Smith and Jigba, man. And I was skeptical at first because I was like, is he really good or is he just eating because the other two guys, Olave and
first rounders
and Garrett Wilson was there taking the attention away from him. But I watched him, I was like, hey man, that boy got some skills. You know what I'm saying?
He getting buckets. You know what I'm saying? No, he is, bro.
He getting buckets.
He is. Remember, like Rip Hamilton from the Pistons? Like,
yeah, real.
Man, get you 24 from the mid range every night.
24,
every night. 24 mid range jumpers. 24 points off of mid range jumpers. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just it. But you ain't gonna never say he's as dominant or dynamic a scorer as Iverson or Kobe, and nobody's ever gonna. But you look up, and he ain't did nothing but went out there and killed you. You know what I'm saying? That's 24 and 6. You know what I'm saying? 24 points on 10 or 12 shooting, 6 assists. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just his game. But no, and I'm glad you went there too, man, because I was going back and forth on my 2 and my 1. And so I'll go ahead and stay here with you at Jackson Smith and Jigba, man. No, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and let Jackson Smith and Jigba be my 1. But I'm going to talk about him now since we're talking about him now.
Okay.
And the reason why is because
let's bundle it all up then, Willie Jack.
Okay, well it just made sense because you got him. It just makes sense. I don't want to come back to him, but you know what I'm saying? It makes sense to just. So I don't mind. Like I said, it's all good. But so he's gonna be my number one. I'm gonna go ahead and say he's gonna be my number one guy. That way we finish a little different as well. But I'll talk about him now. So he's ready made. Like he is out the box pro. You know what I'm saying? Like he is a guy. Like he's just. I don't think there's gonna be much of any transition. Like I said, he shows up, and this is kind of what I was talking about before when I talked about a guy like Josh Downs or a guy like Zay Flowers, where they're all slots. Because to me, he's a slot, and I think they PFF or ESPN, SportsCenter, everybody says the same stat. Like 82 or 83% of every yard or route he's ran has been in the slot. So he's primarily only did that. Now he played with 2 first round outside guys when he was there. Then he got hurt early in this year. So who knows if that dynamic maybe would have changed a little bit this year if it had been more of an effort to get him outside or whatever. We don't know. But still, with his athleticism, the way he looks and moves, it doesn't necessarily look like he's going to be a guy that's going to win athletically, which is more important when you're going to play outside. So I do think he is a slot, but he's the style of slot, like I was saying, where this is the type of slot you run offense through. This is Cooper Kupp. This is Keenan Allen. You know what I'm saying? Now here's a guy. Here, there's two comparisons I made for him, right? Just kind of like where I imagine his floor. Like I imagine his floor is a guy like Adam Thielen. You know what I'm saying? Like Adam Thielen ran off about 4 1,200-yard seasons. You know what I'm saying? Consecutively there for a little while without being a real number one receiver. You know what I'm saying? Like you know what I'm saying? Like he could be. I think that's the level of like slot and possession guy he could be. But then high side, if he does show the ability, if he gets to the league and then does, let's say, make his way outside, he's still not going to win with speed. But there's a receiver that I've talked about before. I've made this comparison, but Devontae. Excellent route running, but it's not like it's a different style of route running because it's still not route running based on like supreme athleticism where I'm just boom hitting boys and breaking them off. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not Stephon Diggs route running. It's not Antonio Brown. It's not Chad Johnson. You know what I'm saying? Where like I win because like I'm at 100 miles an hour. I stop right now. I go 100 miles an hour to the right. You just can't stay with me. It's more savvy. It is more like you see like those highlights of Devontae. He's like kind of skipping off the line and then gives you a move. I mean it's more, he went so more with like
change of pace. It's a
change of pace, savvy, technique, understanding how to use the leverage against his DBs against them. You know what I mean? Like that type of game. Now, what we've seen for Devontae though is Devontae for me is still he's a slot receiver. I don't care like he's a slot receiver. You know what I'm saying? Keenan Allen, Cooper Kupp, and Devontae Adams are 3 levels of the same guy. You know what I'm saying? Devontae's the top level of that type of receiver, but they're the same. That's what they are. Now Devontae can live outside though. And so that's gonna be the difference. Let's say if Jackson Smith-Njigba comes in and then let's say in 3 years, like I said, like whatever happens, and he's shown that he can actually live outside as well, because like Devontae has, he's not gonna just line up and run past anybody. He's just not. You know what I'm saying? But he can sell you, he can fool you. A head knock can get you, a double move can get you. You know what I'm saying? Like he can live outside. And so that's why I was like, it put me in the mind of a guy like that, the way he wins without being such a phenomenal athlete. But then everything else is just, I agree with what you said. He's got excellent hands. He's got excellent body control and ball tracking. Like running with your head like this, changing shoulders in the air and catching a ball with with a toe inside of the end zone when I'm falling out of bounds. You know, so I pulled that play specifically from whatever team it was, where he had like 350 yards and 5 touchdowns. The boy went crazy. But
they might be Utah. You think it was against Utah?
I think you're right. I think you're right. And so like that was I think his 3rd or 4th touchdown of that day. It was an excellent ball for CJ Stroud as well. But it's just like I said, he's running. It's in the back right corner of the end zone, and he's in the end zone running like this, finding it, and then catches it with his toes on the line. You know what I'm saying? Like touchdown. Like that's special. You know what I mean? Like that type of tracking is just isn't everywhere. So because and this is what's going to tie to my number 2 guy, I guess, Jordan Addison. And so I gave him the edge right now. I had it Smith and then Addison. I don't know. I've been going back and forth.
That's okay.
And so I gave him the edge because when I was going through these comparisons, and then like it kept putting me in the mind of Devontae Adams. It just really put me in the mind. I was like, well, damn. If I'm going to say something about him puts me in the mind of Devontae Adams, then that sounds like there's nobody else getting compared to a guy that
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying, with that type of skill set. You know what I'm saying? And not to say that he will. I mean, we use these names. Here's the thing I should say as well about the comparisons in the names. We use names that are known, but it's not to say that everybody has potential to be a Devontae or everybody could be T.O. But you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
there's names I could say, there's names that we can say that some of y'all might not even catch them. So it's, you know, if I give you a reference to Devontae Adams, you could picture in your mind who I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? So that's what that's about. But anyway, long way to get to, I guess, the guy who's going to be my number 2 today, Jordan Addison. And he's a guy, he is smaller. He's 5'11", but he's only 175 pounds. Now he's inside outside flexible. I really think he is, even at that smaller size. He's another guy as well where I watch him and I was like, okay, no, he looks like a pro. Like I think he looks like a pro. Even what happened this year, last year he wins the Biletnikoff at Pitt State with Kenny Pickett throwing the ball. He leaves in free agency, goes to USC. But like that was Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks got 1,000 yards in Houston. He's going up the street to Dallas now. You know what I'm saying? And then produced. Now the numbers went down a little bit. He got banged up a little bit. Then there were some things that went on. You know what I mean? But so the overall numbers went down. But his direct play was that didn't drop to me. I had to watch some of both, and I seen him a little bit honestly last year watching Kenny Pickett when I was doing that draft work. But yeah, he is a smaller inside outside receiver. He's a very good route runner. He's shifty, but he's not twitchy. So he's not a special athlete, but he's another guy that some guys know how to get open. You know what I'm saying? So I like his route running. I like his shiftiness and understanding. Like I said, like he's another guy that understands just kind of how to get open. He's got, and even this last year, he's got good tape against NFL quarterbacks. They played Utah and Stanford were two of the games I watched. Utah with I can't think of the guy's name now. Stanford with Caillou Blue Kelly. That name just sticks out, so I remember that one. But the Utah guy's got a guy that's going to get drafted as well. He ran a slow 40. They were talks about him going even late first, but definitely a second round guy. But then he ran a 4.6 40, and so now he's going to take a tumble. But anyway, good film against quality competition. You know what I'm saying? That's what I was getting at with that. You know what I'm saying? But when I look at him, he's a volume intermediate quality number 2 receiver. You know what I'm saying? Like he's not a deep threat. He's not a guy that can produce deep. He can catch deep. You know what I'm saying? And he's got that on film as well. He's got some deep posts. He's fought through a tackle at the catch point on one and spun out and ran and finished it off for a touchdown. So he can win at all 3 levels. But I think he's really going to be a guy that's going to chew guys up between like 11 and 18 yards. You know what I'm saying? Because like I said, I think he's shifty. He's savvy the way he runs. I think he's got really good hands. He's a hands catcher as well. Like Quentin Johnson, I don't like him at the catch point, and a lot of that is because he's not a very good hands catcher. You know what I'm saying? He jumps up and he wants to, you know what I'm saying? He jumps up like this to try to catch the ball. You know what I'm saying? So he catches with his hands. He's got pretty reliable hands. He's a good route runner. Like I say, he's shifty. He's not twitchy. He played quality NFL competition and still produced. And like I say, he's a guy that the more you feed him, like he's going to give you everything you give him back. So give him targets. He's a guy that can get you 12 catches a night. You know what I'm saying? Like across all levels. Like I say, you want to move him around. You don't want to just lock him into a hard X and just have him lined up with somebody just in his chest all day. So you want to move him around and use him. But he's a guy that can win at every level. And like I said, a guy that's going to be the perfect Robin in somebody's Batman. Looking at the draft, looking ahead, I would love to see him with Justin Jefferson. Like this, like I would love to see him with Justin Jefferson. You know what I'm saying? Because I think they both can go inside and outside. And so if you, with the offense that they brought up from the Rams, it's slot intensive. And we saw, you know what I'm saying, Justin Jefferson get busy. But let's say if you move Justin Jefferson out the slot, let's say Jordan Addison can get in the slot and still kill you. You know what I mean? And then also, I mean, I just like that dynamic. But yeah, man. So those are my top 2 guys, man. Jordan Addison, number 2. Jackson Smith, I went ahead with number 1 in this go round.
Gotcha. Which of course leads me to my number 1 guy in Jordan Addison as well. And I like a lot of what you said, but the main reason I had him as my number 1 is because I felt like there was no weaknesses in this game. The only thing you probably could say about him is he's maybe a little bit undersized. He's a little bit shorter. But to me, when I watch him, man, I didn't see any weaknesses in him. Now, the only thing with that too is I didn't feel like he was just outright crazy good at one specific thing either.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? He reminded me of Javonte Williams when I graded him coming out with
The
Najee.
running back?
Not as a player, but more so of a guy I felt like, okay, he's good at everything, but I don't know if he's just special with everything. I think that was one of the things that I said about Javonte Williams for me when my scouting report on him. But I just felt like Jordan Edison at the receiver position was good at a lot of things, but not special at
Jack of all trades type
I
of
think overall with like this receiver class, I think he could turn into something where he's a really, really good number two, like you said. You know what I'm saying? He has the ability to, he's not crazy athletic, like you mentioned, but you know, he somehow still finds his way down the field, you know what I'm saying, on defenders, stretching the field. He knows how to find his way, you know, down the field and getting open. You know what I'm saying? He has really good footwork at the line of scrimmage in terms of, you know, getting off press and doing what he needs to do to get up the field. I think he also does a good job of recognizing coverage and sitting down in zones when he needs to, as well as, you know, setting up guys, you know what I'm saying, for everything. Like I said, he understands the openings.
Mhm.
And I think he does a good job of setting guys up with moves as the game goes on. You know what I'm saying? You watch the way he runs routes towards the beginning of the game, and then you watch his adjustments off of some of those same routes earlier in the game, and he does something different, or maybe does a double move or finds a way to get himself open a different type of way by using some of the moves that he set you up earlier in the game. I think those are the type of things that you need to know how to do when you, especially when you're dealing with a guy that's probably going to be guarding you all game. Now, I don't know how many guys is going to follow him, but if you're dealing with a guy that you're going to be working on all game long, it's good to play chess game, have chess matches.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? This ain't you can't play checkers no more at the college level. You got to play chess. And I seen that he's a forward thinking wide receiver, so he's not just going into it and just, you know, raw dogging routes. It's more so of, okay, I got a plan. I'm trying to figure this out. I know how you gonna guard me,
Yeah.
and I got
Cerebral. He's a
moves
yeah.
on moves.
He's
Yeah, I got moves on moves. So those were the things that I seen from him. I also think he was very good after the catch too. You know, in terms of making people miss, you know, and getting upfield. So he can do a lot of those things. So besides his overall size, I didn't really see any, like I said, glaring weaknesses in his game, which is the reason why I felt like he could be the number one. I think he was a little bit more shifty than Jackson Smith too. You know, when I watched the two in their games, Jackson Smith just had to
Yeah,
like
and
it
I'm
was
glad you said that because like he is shiftier, but I think that Jackson Smith he's got more examples of like big runs after catches. Like Jordan Addison, I felt like outside of like those deep posts or you know or something like that, but or well, and I don't know, like I think I got like 4 or 5 games into them, so I don't want to talk like I went super deep and then like that, but I got like a good little feel
right.
for it. But like I feel like Jackson Smith, and like I said, he's slow, but like he's got like instances where he's got 30 yards a yak. He might not have scored, but he's got 30 yards. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like, yeah. But
yeah.
it's like, yeah, but no, I see what you're saying. But yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, so like when I watch both of them and I watch them play and I watch them do their thing, man, I like both receivers for sure. I like both of them. I think they're right there neck and neck, you know what I'm saying, in terms of where they stand. And I actually think I would actually put Quentin Johnson potentially in there in terms of like, all right, what his ceiling could actually be after a few years. But right now, where we stand, Jackson Smith and Jigba and Jordan Addison, man, are my top two guys. Jordan Addison being my number one. You know, with just what I saw and what I saw from him on the field, coming from Pittsburgh, going to USC, and still making a difference.
Yeah, not for sure. I think those two guys, what I saw, I think they're in their own tier. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think those two are the guys, like, I would definitely put them in their own tier. And then I think Quentin Johnson and Zay Flowers for me. And honestly, I think those next guys are all kind of in the tier. Just for me personally, I put Quentin
For
Johnson,
sure.
Zay Flowers, and you know, I was there's probably still a small step between Josh Downs and for me at the next phase, but I think those two I think set themselves apart. They don't. They definitely have the highest floors. Like there's a least amount of holes in their games. It's just like, well, what more can you give us on the other side though? Like
For sure.
their ceilings are in question. But if like Jordan Addison, like said, like Jackson Smith and Jigba to me, if he like, I can see an offense getting their hands on him, and then he starts producing like Cooper Kupp. Like he can produce like Devontae. I just don't necessarily see that level of high end production for Addison, and that's why I had Addison too, because I think he could be really good, but I don't know if he can ever be a guy that has a year like I said, like a guy like Adams or a guy like Cooper Kupp, where you can or even like a Keenan Allen. You know what I'm saying? Like because those are guys that dominate the league, that have dominated the league from the slot. You know what I'm saying? Now Keenan Allen don't get a lot of credit for that, but I'm saying like, but to be
I get what you're
a
saying.
leader regularly and they do it from the slot, like you actually key the offense through them. I just it's hard for me to see an instance where you would actually key the offense through Addison. I think he's got to be your two to somebody else's one. But and that's why I gave the edge to Jackson Smith. But like I said, I'm more comfortable with Jackson Smith with Jordan Addison lining up outside though. Like I said, to Jackson Smith. But yeah, okay. Did you have a guy that just missed the cut? You want to drop his name real quick?
That was I actually mentioned him, man. It was Jay Downs. Jay Downs. I mean Josh Downs.
Josh Downs. Okay.
He actually missed my list. He was a guy that like I said, I liked out of North Carolina. You know what I'm saying? But he just missed it. You know, I just liked, like I said, it could have been either way. You know, because I had Kayshawn Butte right there, so he definitely could have took that spot. You know, but I think it was more so me switching the game up too.
No, I get what you're saying, and honestly, man, like I get what you mean because like. Butte has like he looks like a guy that like, all right, man, yeah, I want him to work out. You know what I'm saying? Because like he's got like NFL, he's got real NFL build, but it was too raw for me. The guy I was gonna mention, man, is Jalen Hyatt, the kid from Tennessee. So I was going back and forth between him and Downs, and him. It was kind of similar to the Quentin Johnston, but it's for a different reason. Where Quentin Johnston, like, you've got to weigh the potential of it working out, you know what I'm saying? That's got to come into play because if it does work out, then yeah, man, you've got a guy 6'3", likely runs 4.4 vertical somewhere around 40 inches, and he's quick and shifty. You know what I'm saying? So if that works out, you got to give that thought to that. Jalen Hyatt was a guy where he's tremendous deep threat, but that's the thing is like there's no real route running. You know what I'm saying? Like so, I don't know what routes he can run besides slant, post, and street. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know what else he runs. He may not have to though. You know what I'm saying? Like he may not have to. He plays faster than his time speed. Like he was a guy that on film and like I've heard other pundits on TV or whatever say it. Like man, they expected this boy to threaten 4.2, 4.3 nothing, high 4.2, low like 4.31.
He ran a 4.4.
He ran a low 4.4, but it was like a 4.41, 4.42, and that just goes to show how spoiled we are, which is rolling, but it doesn't scream. Because you know what I'm saying, it doesn't scream like I'm lining up and nobody's gonna stay on top of me fast. You know
I think the thing is like you can consistently get over the top and get past people in college with 4.4 speed, but when you get into the NFL, that won't happen as consistently as you know it happened in college. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
For example, Jalen Reagor. Now Jalen Reagor, we thought had the skills to be a good receiver all around, but he was a 4.4 guy. And he wasn't getting over the top like, you know what I'm saying, as he usually was, you know what I'm saying, when he was in college, man. And I think that's a big difference.
No, that's like, a good point. But he's a guy, man, he's like I said, I think he's 6 foot 175, but I think he's a slot. He's a slot or a clear out player. Like if he lines up outside, he's just going deep to clear it out. And then same thing, you get him in the slot and he's gonna he's a one trick pony for sure. But one thing I would say as well, he carries it. If it's a 4.41, then it's a 4.41 with his pads on because he ran by everybody. He played in the SEC and he ran by. So
Robbie Anderson,
huh?
Robbie Anderson?
No, I didn't go.
Hold on, my bad. His name is Chosen Anderson. My fault.
No, I didn't go Robbie Anderson. I went Will Fuller. The kid out of Notre Dame, he kept getting injured.
I like Will Fuller, man. I wasn't
a big Will Fuller guy. I got time in the building, man. He's a Houston fan. He was a default fan of Will Fuller. But man, like I said, man, 2 games a season. I mean, it was 3 games a season, man. He just couldn't stay on the field. He was already coming out of he was already coming out of Notre Dame, yeah. But I wasn't a huge Will Fuller guy. But that's the type of guy that like that's what he is. Like Will Fuller. Or Ted, that's what I was just gonna say. Ted Ginn, Like it's Will Fuller, Ted Ginn. Like and now there's roles for them. I mean, you can both them boys made some decent money. Ted Ginn was Cam Newton's #1 receiver on that Super Bowl run. You know what I'm saying? So that goes to show you that year. And so, but that's the thing. I was like, can he be one of those guys, or if he learns a little nuance and elevates his game a little bit, can he be Deshaun Jackson? Like that's the type of like upfield speed that he shows and he has. And I don't know if he's at the ball tracking Deshaun Jackson. Like he's another guy as well. Like man, he just hits another gear and goes.
Deshaun was special, boy.
Yeah,
that boy was special.
Yeah, that's it, bro. His speed from and he was got too. Like I think he ran like 4.3, but like which is fast. But like he didn't like some guys just had 40-yard speed. Deshaun had 60-yard speed. You know what I'm saying?
Deshaun still
like he maintained his 4.3 for 60 yards instead of 40. It felt like.
Here's the other part of that too, Willie Jack. I got two more parts to a 40-yard dash. One, I might not have just been on that day. I could have been off. You know what I'm saying? I could have had. You know what I'm saying?
I was cold and one good.
It's a reason why you don't run the same exact time every time you run it. I might run it slower the first time and faster the second time, or faster the first time and slower the second time. Like there's a lot of different ways that happens. But then also you got guys where, I'm just now getting into gear when I get 30 yards down the field. And Deshaun Jackson was one of those guys. It's like, okay, I'm gonna start it off, but when I get 30 yards, you already in top gear. I'm just hitting 5. Exactly. Left. You know what I'm saying? Like Deshaun Jackson was one of those guys, and when he gets going, it's going. You know, and I think Randy Moss was one of those guys too. Even though Randy Moss was a 4.2 guy, still once he got going, once he started striding, you can forget about it, bro.
Yeah,
he eating up all that cushion.
No, that's a fact. That's a fact, and that's what I'm saying. So like, yeah, if he can figure something, if he can figure things out, man, and like I said, get somewhere that takes their time, man, refines them, and kind of works with him a little more, man. Maybe that's the kind of ceiling he can have, man. Like those type of guys. But at the very least, man, maybe a guy like Will Fuller. And honestly, I don't think he's not as refined as because at Notre Dame with the offense they ran, like Will Fuller. No, Will Fuller didn't run no routes either. I ain't gonna lie to you. I ain't gonna do too much. But that was the guy, man. I'll mention Jalen Hyde as well, man. He was the guy that I considered putting there in that 5 spot, man, with the big play potential and that sort of thing. But I ended up going with Josh Downs, man. A little short.
Go on, run through your list real quick. What got, man? So we can wrap it up.
Don't mind if I do, man. The #1 for your dog, man. I had JSN, Jackson Smith and Jibba. #2, I had Jordan Addison. #3, I went with Quentin Johnston. 4, Zay Flowers. 5, Josh Downs, and then honorable mention to Jalen Hyatt out of Tennessee.
Got you. And my 5, man, was Keyshawn Boutte. Then I went 4 with Zay Flowers. Then I went Quentin Johnston. Then I went Jackson Smith and Jigba at 2, and then I went Jordan Addison at 1, man. So that wraps up our top 5 wide receivers coming into the NFL draft from Willie and Chop. You know what I'm saying? You know, go ahead and shoot us in the group, man. Let us know what y'all thought, man. Give us your take. Matter of fact, Willie Jig, I'm gonna do something I ain't never done, man. I'm gonna make a post, man. I'm gonna put our top 5 receivers in there. You know, who you had with your top 5. I put my top 5 in there. You know, we'll see if we got some other cats, you know, that pay attention to college football, pay attention to the draft, you know, and they got some rankings out there, man. Tune in, man, to the Facebook page, man. Check in on your boys. You know what I'm saying? Talk to us. We talk back. You know, man, and let's get it going. And also, man, let's keep this thing going, man. I know y'all got some partners out there, you know, they love to talk football with y'all, man. Bring them on in the group, man. Let them know where we talking football at, man. Let them know, hey, we welcome any and everybody, man. Come on in, have some fun with us, man, and talk some football with your boys, man. It's Willie Jack and Chop. This is what we do. This is what we love to do, man. So come talk some football with us. Willie Jack, I think that's about it.
There you have it, man. I heard my dog say it, man. But hey, real quick with the roll call, man. Said we had Mons in the building, man. Appreciate you. Our dog Isaiah Holmes is in the building, man. Oh, and he had made a comment earlier, man. I meant to circle back to it, but just talking about the class, man. It's a deep class, man, but a lot of slot guys. Or no, deep class, but not overly talented. Yeah, so I feel you there, man. But shout out to Isaiah, man, holding us down. Shout out to No Votes the Podcast, man. Our dog Brother Red swung through the building, man. Day One Gang Jarrell was in the building, man. Our dog Tom came through, man. Our dog Miles came through, man. Y'all know what's going on, man. Say it with me at home, man. Y'all know what's going on. If I forgot to say your name, charge to my head, man. Don't charge to my heart. You know we think about you. You know we appreciate you, man. We appreciate all the love support. Like my dog Chop just said, man. Like, share, subscribe, man. Keep putting out the good news, man. Keep holding the three amigos down, man. Like, share, subscribe, man. Tell a friend, tell your friend's friend to tell his friend. Y'all come in here and kick with the dollars, man. Y'all know what's going on. Wednesday, we will be back, man. Wednesdays at 7 o'clock. You will find us right here giving you draft talk like we talk about. Oh, next week, man, I ain't gonna lie, man. Let's get into them uglies, man. Let's get into them old tackles. This tackle class is got some good prospects, man. Let's get
okay. Well, let's jump into the tackles, man.
Yeah,
let's get it. I can come down there in the trenches, Willie Jack.
Yeah, let's get into the trenches a little bit, man, with the big uglies, man.
I come down there with you, bro.
Yeah. So we'll be back next week, man. Next Wednesday, 7 o'clock. You know what's going on, man. We will be giving our top 5 offensive tackle rankings for the 2023 upcoming draft. And until then, we appreciate y'all, man. Peace.